雲戸ドラゴンは史上最強。お前らちゃんと聞け。
Welcome back to the channel. I'm Big Kumo. No one calls me Kumo. I was moved to tears by the outpouring of support on my last video.
It's only received 56 views, and it's already been uploaded for over a month.
So I'm back again to give my loyal fan what they want. More Tengoku analysis. I've had my morning cup of Compound V, ate some devil fruits and vegetables, and now I'm ready to join you as we break down Heavenly Delusion Chapter 66. Off rip, the cover supports one of my theories. Mikura does not have powers. The orb she's pointing to is Sachio's. The wind beneath her wings is Nanaha's, and the murder beam is Kiriko's. I'm kidding, but it's not an ability. Quick bit of useless trivia. The murder beam is actually called the AMK3, which stands for Amazing Meanings by Kumo the Third. I'm the third and biggest of Kumos in my family. I expect Mikura to continue cosplaying like she has powers moving forward. Already discussed why she might not have powers in my last video, go check that out. I can't rule out abilities like Tokyo's or even the Maru touch, so technically it's an unconfirmed theory. But I think that my spirit animal, Shino Kamanaka, would be using powers all the time if she had them. Now let's actually have a mental breakdown. Wait, hold on. Now, let's mentally break down Chapter 66, which starts off with Maru's humble beginnings. While Takahara was getting bombed, Aoshima kicked off the Noah project. One aspect of the project was to relocate Hiruko kids like Mimihime, Shiro, Taka, and Anzu, which Aoshima handled herself. Another aspect was to rescue the white Zetsu clone baby that might not be a clone, kinda like Gucci Man. That potential clone baby is of course our best boy, Shikamaru, and that job was temporarily left to Shimazaki and Kondo. After the great disaster, Shimazaki, Kondo, and sweet baby Maru link up with Baba in Osaka and wait for Aoshima. But after running low on supplies and getting worried that people might want to track them down for their Takahara association, they decide to ditch Maru at an orphanage and hit the road. This is why Japan's birth rate is so low. You have to take care of the children, my guy. Honestly, they just got tired of having to take care of a whiny baby after the world just ended. Life after the disaster was not shaking out how they were promised. They wanted to look out for themselves. I'm not mad at it. Their loyalty to Aoshima was still pretty flimsy at that time. Plus, when an orphan reaches a certain age, you gotta send them to an orphanage. That's not my finest. I might cut it. I should cut it. As the group leaves, Kondo tells Shimazaki that he's going off with Baba. Imagine working hard on childcare and the homie is rizzing up a fair maiden the whole time. This hurts extra because Shimazaki and Kondo were the dynamic duo. Pretty much any scene with Shimazaki also has Kondo in it. Setting up wires, trying to access Mina's BBL body, the Ascension room. They were even there when the murder beam was getting tested. And they were there when Sawatari made a game time decision about which baby to give to Tokyo. They were really in the trenches together, so while they might not have a ton of time in the manga, you can tell that they spent a lot of time together in their real, fictitious life. Shimazaki nervously splits off and starts walking the Boulevard of Broken Dreams. Shimazaki decides to set out for the Toyonaka branch, and we get a flashback. In this flashback, we get to see that Shimazaki was also a shut-in with anger issues, and we can tell he has anger issues because he's Hulk smashing the hell out of his wall. But everyone's favorite square-faced savior, Director Kamanaka, she saw the vision. The director is really like an NCAA football coach. If you have any useful attributes whatsoever, she will be recruiting you and she will be doing home visits. Like Bruno Mars, the director tells Shimazaki, "You're amazing just the way you are. And also, are you into robot development?" Then we get to see Shimazaki continuing his lonely voyage, and he pulls up to a location where he sees a heaven sign and the Takahara Academy symbol. He instantly thinks the dream the director sold him before the great disaster wasn't a lie, and he falls down to his knees. Fast forward to 5 years later in Osaka. The New Heaven residents are taking a vote on whether foreigners should be accepted. But what I want to point out from this meeting is that Mochi dyed her hair black, which tells you instantly that she joined the cult of Mikura. Let me say this. Between Sawatari getting the home visits with Imanaga and then doing a director-esque rant, Shimazaki getting a home visit and then doing a director-esque rant, now Mochi dyeing her hair black, the director is legit persuasive and likable. She gets a ton of people to do all these unethical things and to be loyal, and they do it with their whole hearts. They're not half-assing anything. It's the whole ass. Put some respect on her name. On her names. At the meeting, Mikura gives an impassioned speech saying that everyone is human, everyone has their own talents, so anyone should be welcome. This is my favorite thing about the director. She is legitimately anti-discrimination in every way possible, but she also has a god complex. So no one is better than anyone else in her mind, but also she low-key thinks she is personally better than everyone else in her mind. She's a great character. She's both Frankie and Light Yagami. Now, here's where I have to admit that I'm confused. I'm okay with faces, I'm okay with names, I'm really bad at locations. If you remember The Way of the Manga, chapter 60, the Buckteeth mangaka said there was a former heaven and a new heaven. The former heaven was taken over by foreigners. That was the Toyonaka branch. And that's where Shimazaki showed up. The new heaven is also in Osaka. That's where Toru is now. And it got set up 10 years ago by people who fled the former heaven. So this meeting with Mikura could be the moment they change the rules that ultimately destroy the former heaven, or this is after they left the former heaven and they're setting up a new heaven. I'm not sure. But let's talk about what's most important about this meeting. This meeting tells us two massive things. We have most of the original people that linked up with Mikura staying and thriving. Look at my guy's cut. The lineup is impeccable. He looks better now than he did 5 years ago. But our actual first important thing is that Shimazaki is at the meeting. And look at his body language. When Mochi asks for a vote, Shimazaki immediately looks to his left. The only person to his left is Mikura. So I wonder if he picked up director vibes from Mikura, or maybe Mikura is so outspoken all the time that he anticipated she would speak up. I can't tell, but I assume that if you've been around the director in a lot of meetings during the Takahara days, then you would see the similarities and mannerisms since Mikura is just a Kamanaka reskin. The second most important thing is the notable absentees. Mikura, Sachio, Nanaha. These are the Three Musketeers. These are the Powerpuff Girls. Shrek, Donkey, Fiona. Why is Sachio and Nanaha absent from the meeting? Did they already turn into man-eaters? Did they leave and go for another town? Did they accidentally turn off their alarm, sleep through it? I have questions, no answers, back to it. Mikura does a plea that all humans have values. And then there's a jump cut to Kiriko in the present saying, I'm not really sure. This is to make you think that they have opposing philosophies. But in the Kiriko timeline, Kiriko actually asked the robot Nata about the death penalty. Remember, when they met Toru in chapter 64, Toru said that he was a criminal and he should be put to death. And Nata explained that before the Great Disaster, you got put to death the kid penalty if you kill two people. So Kiriko is wondering if Toru actually committed murder. First, they reconcile it as Toru probably killing bad people, but then after thinking about Maru with Hoshio, they quickly change the topic and say there's no way Toru killed anyone anyway. Let's talk about these panels a little bit more because you know I like to do room temperature analysis. It could be setting up for Maru having to kill another human, which might be important with how this chapter ends, but more importantly, we see how the realization after delusion themes in this manga can be positive as well. Most of the realization after delusion that we've seen so far has been extremely negative. Kiriko was delusional about Robin's true nature, eventually learned the truth. Sawatari was delusional about the ethical compromises he was making, eventually learned the truth. And the director was delusional about her vision of heaven, eventually learned the truth. Maybe. Now we see Kiriko delusional about Toru and unwilling to learn the truth. But it makes sense why they would have motivated reasoning since everything else from their time at Funiyama Orphanage turned out to be a lie. They have to be really committed to holding on to at least one thing from the Haruki childhood that was true since everything else got shattered and pretty much turned to shit. Back to the chapter. As they travel, they find a sign that says Suppression Force Recruitment. Hop out on foot and they see a sign attached to it. And that says a monster, a kaiju number 8, has been kidnapping children. Maru can't sense any Hiruko, so they wonder what it could mean. The writing looks fresh, they go on to investigate. Could be a trap, could be people needing help, they're gonna check it out regardless. Maru says he's gonna save everyone if they need help. The place is extra raggedy and torn up, but not from the disaster. It looks like it's man-made damage. They clear a bunch of houses, but they can't find anyone. And then Kiriko spots an arrow in the road. They follow it to a factory and they see something glowing inside. Electricity. We got charging ports, we got robot workers. I'm guessing Jeff Bezos probably owns this place. Hiruko uses her Tanjiro sense of smell and picks up something foul. Our Toucan Sams follow their nose and they see a robot filled with skulls. So maybe the place actually belongs to Ed Hardy. Hiruko decides that a human did this. Dismembered and lined up like toys. Lorena Bobbitt strikes again. And then Maru sees a gurney with rope and blood on it. Maybe they did the Robert Durst thing, the dismembering on this table. Hiruko walks over, sees medical tools on a shelf, and panics. The Discord groups have lots of speculation as to why Hiruko reacted like this. I think it reminded them of the brain transplant, but I'm not sure. Then Hiruko grabs the paper that was underneath the medical supplies, and they find another Takahara pamphlet like the one they found in Ueno. The one that had the Taka and Anzu symbols on it. The chapter ends when they look up and see a shadowy, hooded figure in the doorway. I have theories on this, but I'm sure in 20 days I will be proven incorrect. However, I do think that the shadowy figure is Shimazaki. That's just based on the body type and a little sneak peek of the jaw. It could also be Kondo. Either way, I don't think that they're gonna end up being the actual psycho killer. If you see the seinen sheet when Toru met with Hiruko, you will see that Shimazaki and Baba met as well. So maybe Shimazaki was still in Osaka. He sees Toru meeting with Maru. Maru looks exactly like Tokyo in the face. He decides to go follow Maru. That's a possibility. Maybe Shimazaki was able to hide out while the whole town got massacred. Or maybe it's not Shimazaki and I fell for another easy misdirection. I can't really see Shimazaki doing this. I think because he's a shut-in, he'll have an awkward entrance the same way the doctor seemed suspicious when he was at the orphanage. But maybe it is Shimazaki and he got radicalized post-apocalypse. Now Maru has to kill him the same way Hiruko thinks Toru had to kill bad people. You can let me know if my room temperature IQ got it right when the next chapter drops, or you can tell me your own theories in the comments. Based on Hiruko's reactions to the smell, it looked like it might be realistic, but since we're only seeing skulls and not the rest of the skeletons, it could also be staged. Maybe it's a trap the way they tried to set up a trap when we met Toturi. I legit feel like I have twice as many questions as answers after reading the chapter, but it was a good chapter. But I'm getting sweaty recording, which means it's time to stop. El Sai Kangaroo, Big Kumo out.